What's going on YouTube? In my last video I showed you how to do this. And no, alrighty then. So if you ever had the question of what that would have looked or sounded like, there you go. You're welcome. I would actually watch a whole movie like that. Anyways, if you haven't seen my face fusion video, I'll leave that in my video description along with all the different links you'll need for this video. But face fusion will allow you to deepfake faces onto an image or video. It's also pretty easy to do and it's a simple install. But today we're going to look at RVC WebUI. And that's the tool that we're going to use to do some voice cloning as well as some other stuff. By the way, this is the channel Artificially Intelligent, and I take a look at fun to use AI tools and teach you how to install them and use them. I focus mainly on AI art, but every now and then I see a really cool tool like this one and I want to share it with you guys. So if that's your tea and crumpets, please consider subbing. Before we get started with RVC WebUI or retrieval-based voice conversation, this tool isn't just for singing, it's also for voice cloning. So if you wanted a free voice cloning tool, this is it. You might have to do a little bit more tweaking than the paid options, but this one's completely free. Another thing you can do is split the vocals and instrumentals from any song very easily, quickly, in 5 seconds or less to get your own a cappella or karaoke version of a song. And you could even download custom voice models and train your own custom voice model if you want to, like you can use your own voice, for example. You might be thinking, why the hell do I want to clone my own voice? I mean, I already have that. Well, you can use that model over someone who can sing and end up with something where it sounds like you're singing, which is kind of cool. Here's an example of that. I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid in a whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew. Something wrong with my voice. Admittedly, I haven't perfected training with my own voice, but you can spend a lot of time if you want to tweak it and get it perfect. So if you have that time and dedication, you can get a good product. And the talking version of my voice is a lot better, but something to keep in mind is that you're gonna have to play with it a little bit to kind of match the tone of your voice with the tone of the singer. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Okay, so let's jump into the install portion. I've also created a website version of this tutorial so you can actually just follow through it at your own pace. And I think that it's very helpful, especially these cards right here that kind of show you where everything should go, like where the input should go, where the voice models change, and it has all of that in this card right here. So while you're getting used to this tool, this card will be very helpful. You're welcome. This site might be very detailed, but really it's a simple install. All you're doing is really unzipping something and then clicking on something and then you're done. However, it's using the tool that's kind of hard, so you're going to have to learn how to train it. So I'm going to teach you how to train your own model, how to add custom voices, how to split your vocals from your instrumentals from a song, because you're going to need that for training to get clean samples, how to remove echo, and a bunch of other cool stuff, but it's pretty easy to do, so just follow along and you'll be good. So I'm going to scroll to the top of the site that I created for you guys. You don't have to use this site. I'll put the other links that you can use in the description if you rather go to the GitHub repository, but heads up, that repository is actually in Chinese.
What are you even trying to say?
I have a Google translated version of it in my video description. Okay, so I'm going to click on the first thing here, which is the Hugging Face site. And really what we need here is just that one RVC file. And you can tell the files that you need because they're huge. They're in the gigabytes. The rest of the files, don't worry about them. Those are part of the package, but they will all be included in these packages right here. And one of the coolest thing about this tool is that it's all inclusive. Like, you don't need to install any prereqs. You don't need to install Python because it has a portable version. You don't need FFmpeg because it's included. So it has a lot of things in here, so you don't have to go through the hassle of pre-installing them before you do the install. So you really have two choices. I mean, there's a beta choice, but you don't want to use that. You're going to use either AMD Intel for AMD users or NVIDIA for NVIDIA users, of course. And you want to look at the right here. You want to see which one is the most recent one. This one's 29 days ago, so this is the most recent one. So click on this little down arrow here to download this. So I'm going to click on that and it's going to start downloading. Yep, and that's all we need from this site. And just a heads up, this thing is 5 gigabytes large. It's 5.64 gigabytes. And one thing to take note of is when you extract it, it's going to be 10 gigabytes. Now, that's if you could extract it. And just a note that Windows can't actually extract .sh files with the standard unzipping software. So you're going to have to download either 7-zip or WinRAR. I downloaded WinRAR, but these files were compressed with 7Z, which is 7-zip. So I assume that's going to work as well. So you just need to install one of those apps and then you'll be able to unzip it. But the default Windows option doesn't unzip it. You'll have this error right here, which I was getting, and it was frustrating me because nobody really knew how to fix it. At least in the forums and Reddits, I couldn't find the answer. So I downloaded WinRAR, which unzips pretty much anything. So I'm not going to go over how to install WinRAR in 7-zip because it's pretty easy. You just kind of go to the site, download the file, and then click next, and then okay. But I do have the links for WinRAR and 7-zip on my site. So you just click on one of these icons and you'll get to the site and choose the one that's appropriate for your operating system. If you don't know what operating system you have, just press Windows key and pause break and this will pop up. And you'll see it here in system type. Now that you installed WinRAR or 7-zip and you're able to unzip this now, the RVC 1006 NVIDIA file that you downloaded should look like this. Go ahead and right click on it, and then go to WinRAR and then extract files to a location on your computer. You can also extract to RVC 1006 and it'll just create a folder inside this. So I'm going to do that, but you can put it wherever you want. Now keep in mind, this is going to be 10 gigabytes when it's done. Now, if you did it the way I just showed you, you're going to have a file inside a file with the same name. So go ahead and take this and cut it and put it to its final resting place. So I put mine in documents here, so you can go ahead and paste it wherever you want. But when all said and done, you'll have a file just like this. And when you open it, it should look exactly like mine. Now, you're only one step away from finishing. The only thing you need to do now is click on the Go Web file. And you'll see something like this pop up. The first time when you click on this, you're going to see a little bit more than what I'm looking at right now. It's going to do a couple updates, and then it's going to show you running on local URL. As you can see down at the bottom, it says running on local URL, and that means that you're ready to go. By now, the tool should have opened up in the background and it looks just like this, a Gradio interface. But if it didn't open up in the background, you can't really click on this like you can with other tools. This is not a loopback address. This is actually the lack of an IP address. And let me show you what happens if you try to do that right now. So even if you pasted it in, it's still not going to work. But what you can do is actually type localhost : and then the port number. So localhost and then : and that's 7897 and it'll work. You shouldn't have to do that because it should pop up, but you know, sometimes things don't work, right? Awesome. So you're actually done with the install. So now it's the fun part. So it's actually using the tool, which it looks pretty intimidating right now. And there's a bunch of tabs up here as well. I'm only going to show you these 3 tabs, but it's actually quite simple. I'll walk you through it. And again, my Wix site has like a cheat sheet, so you can actually see where the input goes and where you put everything in, how you change your model. Okay, so the first tab we have here is the model inference. Now this is the main tab where you're actually going to do the voice cloning. So in the drop down here, you're going to choose whatever voice you have. There's a couple here that are here by default, but I installed a bunch of custom ones as well as train my own voices, which I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit. But let's try the Michael Bublé voice. Bublé. I got this from Hugging Face. If you don't see any models, go ahead and refresh over here. Next, we have Transpose, and this is perhaps the most important part. So we're going to do this one last. Next is your input or enter path of audio file in this section right here. And this is going to be the file that you're either someone's singing, you're trying to get the tone from, or you're trying to copy the words or copy it. And the inferencing voice up here is the voice that's going to be cloned on top of this. So let's grab a file real quick. You want something that's only vocals or it's going to sound pretty messed up. So let me look at some of my only vocal stuff here, and we'll do the Whitney Houston I Will Always Love You with Michael Bublé. Quite the challenge. If you don't know what song that is, it's this song right here. And all right, so all you gotta do is right click on the file and then go ahead and copy as path. Then come back in here and just paste it in there. You could remove the quotes. I mean, in other tools, it'll actually break, but this tool accepts quotes. This next one, you're gonna leave blank. Don't even think about it. It's for custom indexes, I think. I never used it. Don't need it. Don't want it. Now, this next part is important. This is your index file, and this is going to have to match whatever inferencing voice is in here. So I got Bublé, so I need Bublé down here as well. And this is going to be index file, and at the top, the inferencing voice is a .pth file. Now, the last one here, just choose RMVPE. Don't even worry about it. It makes a pretty good breakdown here of why, but it's basically the most efficient with good quality. So, I mean, why choose anything else, right? All right, so let's go back to Transpose. This is the most important thing that's going to make or break your clone. And you basically want to kind of get your clone as close to this vocal file as possible. What you have here is a scale of -12 to 12, with -12 being deep and 12 being the highest. And you could start off with 0 and then kind of go either negative or positive from there, but you're trying to kind of match this inferencing voice with this right here. And that usually gives you the best result, depending on what you're trying to achieve. Now for this, I'm probably going to go pretty high. So maybe I'll just go to 2, or let's just try it at 0. And this stuff right here, and this is very important, where we're going to convert first and then mess with this. So let's click on convert. Okay, for some reason that took 12 seconds. It is a 4-minute song though. So let's go see what the output is.
If I should stay and
Okay, so you can tell it's really robotic. So the first thing you want to do is change the transpose, as it was too high. So I'm going to try -5 to make it a little bit deeper and convert it. Try it again.
if I
That's a lot better. So it sounds a little bit more like him.
should stay.
Okay, so I think that's okay. Actually, sometimes when it sounds very jarbled and robotic, that's when you start messing with these sliders. All right, so let's try another one. Arnold usually comes out kind of messed up at first, and I usually have to mess with it. All right, so I'm going to do the PTH and then the index file down here. And then I'm just going to copy in the path right there. Leave this blank and transpose. I'll leave it at 0 for now and convert.
It's lovely. Yes, I can show you the world.
All right, you can tell like it sounds like you got punched in the stomach or something. Very winded. So let's kind of lower it down to -5 and see if it gets any better.
I can show you the world. Shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess, now when did you last?
All right, so it sounds a lot more like Arnold. I mean, there's a little bit of weirdness, so we can mess with these sliders to try and improve it a little bit. By the way, the tool does a great job at saying what these things do, so just go ahead and read it.
I can show you the world. Shining, shimmering, splendid.
So just play with these settings until you get it right. I'm not a pro at this. I have a hard time explaining this section, but definitely if you have a messed up robotic voice, this can fix it. As well as transpose. I think transpose is the biggest factor. I would start at 0, then drop it to -5 or +5 and see kind of which is along the right route, and then just keep going that way and refine it. Now the second tab is for batch conversion, and you'll be putting in a folder instead of the actual file itself like we did for the other tab. I know it's in Chinese, but this one's for batch conversion. Just read this right here, but it's basically the same thing but with multiple songs. Okay, so you're probably wondering how I got those custom voices, and it's really easy. Just go back to my tutorial or my video description, and over here there's a pre-trained voice models link. Go ahead and open that up, and what this is pre-filtered by RVC. I mean, it's a mess here, it's chaos, but what you can do is type in RVC and then space and then whatever name you want, like Billie Eilish or something. There it is. And so one thing, don't put comma. Comma is actually going to mess it up. And you see when I put comma, it's not there anymore. All right, so I'm going to use this Billie Eilish and see if it's any good. So you're going to be met with this page once you click on it, but you really need to go to Files and Versions, which is this tab right here, and then download these two models. Now, they're all going to have the same name, so you're going to have to change it. So I'm going to click on this down arrow to download the index file, and then you also need the PTH file. So click on the download arrow for that as well, right here. Okay, so you need these two files in two different folders in your RVC files. So just go ahead and rename them first so you don't get mixed up. Just highlight both of them and then press F2 to rename them. I'm going to name this one Billie and press enter. And I got a Billie PTH and a Billie index file. Now I'm going to cut both of these files and go to my RVC folder, and these have to go in separate. So I'm going to start with the PTH file, which goes into assets and weights. So I'm going to paste in here right now. Now I don't want both of these files in here, so I don't want the index file in here. I just want the PTH. So I'm going to cut the index file so I don't forget. And so the PTH file is where it needs to be. So I'm going to go up 2 folders into the main folder, and now I'm going to go into the logs folder. And this is where my index is going to go. Now, I'm not quite clear, but I think it needs to be in a folder. So I see some of the original ones that came with the tool are not in folders, but instructions say to put in a folder with the same name as the .pth file, which we just pasted, and assets in the subfolder weights. So let's make a folder. So this folder has to be the same exact name as the PTH file that we put in the assets subfolder weights. So if you remember, we named that file the same as this. So we can just click on this file and press F2 to highlight it, press Ctrl C to copy it, go back to this folder, the new folder that we made, press F2, and then Control V to paste it. F2 is renamed, by the way. And click anywhere or press enter, and you can see we have our Billie right here. So quick recap, we put the .pth file in the assets subfolder weights. So it's in here. And we put our index file in the logs folder in its own folder that has the same exact name as the .pth, which is Billy. And that's it. Now you have a custom voice. Just go back to the RVC WebUI, and at first you're not going to see it. So you just click on refresh voice list and index path, and there it is. And now you'll have to look for Billy under the index as well. So let's try it out. Using the same file, I'm going to convert.
Lovely world, shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess.
Oh God, it sounds terrible. So let's move the transpose to 5 maybe. Try that.
When did you last let your heart decide? I can open your eyes, take you wonder by wonder, over, sideways, under, on a magic carpet ride, a whole new world. I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. I can open the carpet ride, a whole new world, a new fantastic point of view.
Okay, so that's a lot better, but I don't know if it sounds exactly like Billie Eilish. I tried a lot of different values, didn't get something that I thought was good. Not all the models are going to be great, and it could be user error, could be me. Let's move into vocals and accompaniment. What the hell? That's the first time I seen that word. Let's just say vocals and instrument separation and reverberation removal. This thing's so easy to use and it's really powerful. It separates the vocals and the instrumentals with ease in 5 seconds. So let's take one of these.
Makes everything seem small.
Okay, so you can see the vocals and the instrumentals are both in here. So all you gotta do is drag it here, let it go. And then the model, I would choose HP2. I mean, there's a good explanation up here at the top of what all of these do. HP2 has been giving me the best results. HP3 is supposed to be more powerful, but it takes away a little bit more of the voice. HP5, I can't really tell the difference. And these last ones, I've only had luck with these when I'm removing something from a song that's just vocals. So if there's instrumentals, it comes out like crap. But it does a great job at removing the echo and refining something even further. So when you remove the vocals from the instrumentals, you notice that there might be a little bit of echo or reverb just because that's the way the song was. And without the instrumentals, you definitely notice it now. So that's what these will do, and those will actually clean it up pretty nicely. I mean, this is even like you can clean up your own audio, like if you have a lot of background noise. So this is pretty awesome to have all of this in this little tool. So I'm choosing HP2. Now folders, you can leave it as is, but I wouldn't do that. I would make your own folder so you know where everything goes. I like erasing everything when I'm done because I trash it. Otherwise, it's going to go into your user's temp folder, I think, and not easy to find that folder. So this is what I did. I created a temp folder, and I have a separate folder, one for vocals. And you could just go here in the address bar. You can either click in the address bar, press Alt-D at the same time, and you'll get in here, press copy. I'm pasting my vocals there. Now I'm going to do the instrumentals. Click in here, right click, copy, grab the address. Then I'm going to press Ctrl V to paste my instrumentals folder in there. You don't have to do this. Now export file format, you have WAV, FLAC, MP3, and M4A. So WAV is probably the best format that you can have, but it's also 10 times bigger than the other ones. So this is a raw format. FLAC is pretty good. It's probably the most lossless and compressed version, but you might have some compatibility errors if you use it. MP3 is highly compatible. It's compressed. It's pretty decent quality and it's small. I can't tell the difference between any of these four. M4A is the smallest and most compressed, but it loses the most quality. Okay, so I'm going to click convert. Normally it takes like 3 to 5 seconds, but I forgot I am recording, so that could be what's going on there. So let's see the instrumental output right here. There you go. You have your own karaoke music. Let's check the vocals now.
Can't hold you back anymore. Let it go. Let it go.
As you can tell, there's some reverb in there as well as, a lot of echo. So let's try to get rid of that. So take that same file. Actually, let's refresh this page first. Then we're going to grab the output that had a lot of echo and reverb, and we'll just drop it in there. This time we're going to choose the model, the Deverb by Fox Joy. And then for folder, I'm just going to put in my main folder. I'm actually going to erase this folder when I'm done. I'm going to make both the vocals and the instrumentals this folder, wave, and convert. All right, so here's my output. And the file names are bad, but one of them is like basically what you want. It's usually the first one. Try it out.
Everything seems small. Don't care what they're going to say. Now they know. Let it go. Turn away and slam the door.
Still a little bit of echo, but better.
Men, don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Let it go. Don't let them know. Well, now they know.
Not perfect, but better. When you start training, you're gonna need a lot of these raw vocal files. So this is a mandatory tool to know how to use because it's gonna split the instrumentals. So when you're training, you don't get a lot of that background noise, which it's not gonna work if you have the noise. It needs to be vocals, it needs to be clear, and it needs to be consistent. So if it's a happy mood, or if it's singing, or if it's a sad mood, you know, it has to be consistent. Speaking of training, let's get into training. So training is not as hard as you think it is. There's a lot of options here, but I mean, you could skip all of them with the one-click training. I mean, aside from giving your project a name, I mean, it needs a name and it needs the path to where you have the folders that you want to train the voices from or clone the voices of. So I have this folder here with some clips of my voice. I don't know if it helps if you have split clips, but I tried it with one clip. It worked fine. But I have about 10 minutes of audio here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this folder name by copying it. And this time you're not grabbing the file name, you're grabbing the folder name. So folder that holds all your voice files, and paste that in here where there's Chinese lettering and replace that. And then you could just click one-click training without even looking at anything else. And what that's going to do, it's going to go through all of the motions here without you even thinking about anything else. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do it the thorough way. So definitely give your training a good name, something you could recognize. And when this is all done, by the way, when this is all done, it's going to go in the appropriate folders. You won't need to move it. It'll just be usable. All you got to do is go to Model Inference and refresh the voice, and it'll be there. So again, put in your file name and then target sample rate. I'm not sure what that is. Zoom higher is better. Now, if you put false here, this is for speech, but it's going to take really long. It's going to take 10 times, 20 times longer. I don't know why, but for me, it takes a lot longer. I usually use version 2 and basically just keep everything default up here in step 1. Now we got step 2A, and this is where we put the training folder. All right, so now you just need to process data. And you'll see here success for every one of your voice files, and then there'll be an end pre-process. That's how you know this section is done. You'll also see the same information here in your console. By the way, if it's taking way too long, you want to get out of here, you can hold Control and press C, and then it'll ask you if you want to terminate the batch file, and you can say yes. But we don't want to do that. Cool. Now step 2B, and this should always be 0 and your main video card. The only people that might have a problem with this is for people with APUs that have like a GPU on their CPU. So I don't have that, so I just got 0 for my main card, which is my 4070. Just make sure your main card is down here. Make sure you select RMVPE GPU. And I'm not even going to mess with this. I only have one video card. And this Chinese lettering here basically kind of tells you what these options, what's better or not. And it says that this one's the most efficient. And without touching anything in here, I'm just going to click on feature extraction. And you can actually go in this box, hover over it, and scroll down to see more information. What you're going to have to do to see if it's done, and you want to see all feature done right there. Now we got step 3, and we're going to skip this frequency first because it's not going to make sense right now. So let's look at total training epochs. But basically, it's an iteration or one complete set of instructions, or from start to finish, or from one time period to another. It's an epoch. And then you have the choice of 2 to 1000. So but 1, it's going to default you to 2. So you can do 2 to 1000. But I recommend if you have like a 3-minute file, I would stay under 50. So typically the average that people use is like 100. So I would just stick to 100 and give it a file like 10 to 30 minutes long. Now let's go back to here, save frequency, and it's telling you to save every whatever epochs. And so I'm going to put 50. So if you put 50 and you put this on, yes. You're going to have multiple models in here like I do. So in model inference, you'll see here that it had 100, 150. This wasn't even completed. It was going to 300 and I gave up at 150. But it's kind of nice that it saved it there. And also, you know, if your computer crashes or it doesn't finish the process, you know, you'll still have something. Now batch size per GPU. And let's be honest here, if you have 4 gigabytes of VRAM, keep it at 5. If you have 6, maybe you can go 10 or 15. But if you have like a 4070 like me, you got 12, you could bump it up anywhere from 25 to 30. And then if you have a 90 at the end of the name of your video card, like a 3090 or 4090 with 24 gigabytes of VRAM, just go ahead and max it out. Now, as this gets more optimized over time, it seems to be less strict. You can put more on your GPU at once per batch. Just know that your PC does need overhead. So like if you max it out and your card could barely do it, it might be able to go without running out of VRAM, but it's going to be really slow. Now, next is save only the latest CKPT. I don't do that. This one, I haven't really noticed much of a benefit, so I just leave it on no. If I put yes, it severely slows down my computer. This one I always click yes. I mean, if you have the hard drive space and it saves weights at each point, so you can access them over here like I could with this 100 and 150. Now I don't mess with these. I leave that as the default. And very important, before you do anything, you click on train feature index. And you'll see here, I'll say training, and then your fan will probably start spinning up for your GPU, and you don't want to do anything until it says added. So once you see this added and it says version 2 of your index, if you chose version 1 up here, it's going to say version 1. Now you can train your model. And this is when you start looking at your console to see what's going on, because this thing is going to get stuck in processing for like 30 minutes. And so it usually takes from like 30 minutes to an hour for me. Maybe if you have a faster card, I don't know. Maybe it'll take less time, but that's typical for me. And less. So you'll notice that it'll start showing all the epochs, and like there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then it'll save for every 50 since that's what I set it to. And it'll set a notification here, so you'll see that in the console. And then when it's done, it'll say saving final checkpoint success, and then that means you're done training and that you can find the model in model inference. Just a heads up, when you're doing your training over here, if you click false, it actually will do speech better, but then overall true is better because that actually catches the pitch and tone. So if you're singing or if there's some personality in it, it'll pick it up. But with false, it's pretty monotone, which is okay for speech, but it'll still be kind of dead. So you notice when there's too much variation in the speech and you chose true, there's going to be some auto tuning going on. But for singing, you have to click this or it's going to sound something like this. I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. Did you last to let your heart? Okay, so that sounds like probably like if I was just really singing, that's what it would sound like. And this is how it sounds like if you chose true. I can open your eyes, take you wonder by wonder, over, sideways, and under, on a magic carpet ride. As you can tell, it's a lot better, right? Now here's the example if you chose false and you're just doing speech.
You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about...
Wait, that's the original. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. As you can tell, the model that was trained with false actually does pretty well with the speech. Very monotone, but it sounds like me. Now let's try the same thing, but with the singing model, which did pretty good with A Whole New World. Let's see how it does for speech. By the way, that singing model, that was a result from the one-click training. So one-click training is not bad. You can spend your whole life imagining ghosts, worrying about the pathway to the future, but all there will ever be is what's happening here and the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. Okay, so that was pretty good too, but there was some parts there at the end where it started like auto-tuning and getting a little deeper and crazy. So sometimes there is a benefit to choosing false here when you're just doing straight up speech, but it's going to be very monotone, which is the only problem. You might want to just play with the model that you created with true to try to get it perfect, but you might have to cut it up into clips to get it perfect to do model inferencing for that specific portions so you can play with the values, which is a lot of work. You gotta remember that it's trying to do the values for the entire songs. If there's a lot of variation, it's gonna start sounding crazy. So if you chop it up and the parts where it messes up, you can actually fix those by messing with the sliders as well as the transpose for that specific portion. Yeah, that's a lot of work, but that's all I wanted to show you today. Hopefully you liked it and you learned a lot, and if you did, go ahead and leave a like. It helps me out greatly. It helps share the video and also tells me that I'm doing okay. Sorry this video was a little bit longer than usual. I don't like it to be 30 minutes, but it was just so much packed into this, so it ended up being longer than I anticipated. It was supposed to be 13 minutes actually, so I'm over by quite a few minutes, maybe 20 or something. We'll see when I cut this video down. Also, if you want to check out the face fusion video, it should be popping up right now. That will teach you how to deepfake videos and images. So check that out if you're interested. There'll also be a video on a really easy to use AI art tool. If you're getting started, this thing is super easy. No prereqs, just install. But yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.